Okay, we're live. Good evening. This is Jenna Song coming from Winnipeg, and I am on Facebook Live with Dr. Hal Blatman. Welcome, Dr. Blatman.
Thank you, Dennis.
Great to have these conversations. This is third in a row. So we've
Very
been
nice to
talking
be here.
about pain
Yes.
and things that affect the pain, etc. The food or where actually pain come from, all that. And we were gonna have the presentation on Saturday, but you have some announcement to make out that presentation, so I thought we'll get that out.
All right. Well, we have some concerns about COVID. And if we do this the way we want to in our studio, we have no way to really protect the participants, no way to protect ourselves. And it really doesn't set a good example. Even if we have masks on, we're way too close together doing this body work. And people at home, you're with the people you're with all the time. So that it's a little bit easier in that way at home, but not for us. And so we decided that in the interest of that kind of safety, what I'm going to do instead is just a 1 hour by myself, a very shortened version, but with the nuts and bolts and the pieces that are most important. So you get an idea, the same kinds of goals we had before. Where does your pain come from? What needs to happen in your body to make it go away? How do you get started on that? And we'll do as much of that as we can in an hour. And when we can be COVID safe, we'll be back with our more original game plan.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, we have to adapt to the current environment and health concern, etc. So it's unfortunate, but it's understandable. What I want to talk about tonight and a little bit is that, during that workshop that you were planning, we were going to talk about a little bit about, you were going to talk a lot about food and stuff.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing a little bit of how food can affect, and maybe, one or two food that for your top one or two that patients should really not be consuming, and
Sure.
why not?
Sure. Our bodies are designed to have inflammation. And for the good side, we have inflammation for repair and
Right.
inflammation for defense. And you don't really want to shut either one of them down.
No.
And when we have inflammation that causes us pain, many times we have what's called a repair deficit. We have some sort of repair that needs to be made, and we don't have the resources internally to be able to pull that off. And so our body shifts into a defense mode and makes us hurt. Well, the baseline of inflammation in our body is often set by our insulin level. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
And as we eat things that push our insulin button, our level of inflammation within our biology and our tissue and our fascia goes up. Well, hold that thought for just a minute, and let's
Okay.
talk about the fascia. We spoke in the last couple of weeks about the wound right here that's
Right.
tender on top of your collarbone. We spoke about the kinks and knots in this muscle that you can actually feel and how they cause this headache across your head. Well, what makes the strings in this muscle glue together? The injuries here and here are easier to understand. We talked about that.
Right.
But what makes that glue together? Well, we didn't quite know that. And as part of our treatment, one of the things that we do is trigger point injections.
Correct.
And trigger point injection is when we would take a needle, put it right into the heart of that kink or tightest part of that ropey band, and it immediately releases.
Yeah.
And then, how fast does pain come back? How fast do the trigger points come back? And when we do these injections, we actually inject something that will spread the fibers in this stuck ropey band apart.
Right.
And restore blood flow to the muscle. And once you're apart and you're loose, there's really only three main reasons you glue back together and your trigger points come back and your pain comes back. One is You're eating things that cause this level of inflammatory change in your fascia, and within 2 days, your pain comes back and you glue right back together again, and you're stuck and sore and tender. And that's where we really learned to appreciate the food piece. Another, since we're already on this topic, is that if we put a needle into the muscle and actually unkink the muscle, but the muscle's pulling against an attachment, this attachment here on the collarbone, for
Right.
the muscle in your neck, and the attachment is still kinked, if the muscle pulls against a kinked attachment, it's going to develop and absorb some of those kinks back. And I think that's the pain we refer to as muscle memory, and muscles don't remember anything. They're just computer cells that turn on and turn off. And fascia remembers. Muscles have no memory. And that's the pain that tends to come back in the next couple weeks after your trigger point injection. The third main reason that these come back is that this area that holds you together that you found is tender isn't strong enough to hold you when you lean back and pull on it.
Right.
And so you actually slip again, create a new kink and a new wound. Those are the basics of why people have so much trouble making pain go away. And on the way to doing this, we started to learn about food that caused inflammation. I first started to take that path maybe 20 years ago. And as I learned this is not so good and that's not so good, and they came out of our diets and our kids were, Dad, you're not listening to another educational tape. We already have nothing to eat in the house. So, but they learned that, and as we're doing it and I'm learning it, you may not know this, but I injured my lower back on the Nautilus low back machine many years ago.
No.
And as a result of that, I had pain in my lower back, and it felt like it was in my lower back because, you know.
Right.
And we did trigger point injections in me as I learned about them. And we could do injections in my lower back muscles, and we could do injections in my butt muscles.
Right.
And all those things made my lower back pain better, but I still played golf with pain on every single swing. It was better, but it wasn't gone, and it wasn't,
right.
You know, like everybody else feels. And so I started to learn this stuff about food, and I remember I changed the bread and took gluten mostly out of my diet. And I had my first almost pain-free 9 holes about a month later.
Wow.
And that's what taught me. So number 1 is bread flour. In any form, I would say mostly grown in our country. And I understand that you probably use the same seeds from the same company. And so if you really need to make bread the old-fashioned way, you want to go and get it from Italian flour and ship that in, right? But bread is not bread. You know, when bread used to be made, you let it rise twice.
Yeah.
Well, the bread that's made today is a one-step process, doesn't have that rising time. So the sugar is still in the bread, and you're eating a lot of sugar.
Sugar.
Well, if you raise your insulin level because you eat sugar, and every time you do eat sugar, you get an insulin response because your body has to know what to do with it, that raises the inflammatory response throughout your body, and the odds are you're going to start to glue yourself together.
Again.
How do you know? The person who's gluing himself or herself together doesn't like to sit for very long. You got to be up, you got to be moving, and as long as you're moving, you're lubricated, you can move, and you sit down for 10 minutes and go to move, and you're stuck.
Right.
So you loosen up again. Well, that is what we're talking about. You want to not feel that anymore, you got to take all the inflammatory food out of your diet.
Food out.
And settle down. So number 1 is going to be bread flour. Number 2 is going to be sugar. And it's not just sugar. It's anything that your body thinks is sugar.
It's sugar.
So that's going to include fructose, corn syrup, rice syrup, honey, potato starch, tapioca flour. All these things that ultimately go to sugar. And technically it even includes alcohol. but I've not found that a glass of wine makes any significant difference. So bread and sugar and anything that turns into sugar, and then also dairy.
Right.
Dairy from cow. If you squeeze your upper trap muscles and they're tight, it's because you've got injuries like we've talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
But if you squeeze it and it's really, really tender, well,
Mm-hmm.
everybody in that shape is sensitive to dairy from cow. And you'll find, if this is true for you, sometime between 3 weeks and 5 weeks after totally dairy from cow free, all the way to butter, and you don't get a
Mm-hmm.
buy butter, you'll
Mm.
squeeze these, and they were tender yesterday and they're not tender today. It'll be that big a difference. And you have a
Wow.
little bit of dairy again, and they're tight and tender for 3 weeks.
So talk about dairy. There's sometimes people, say, how about organic? Doesn't make it different.
No, it doesn't. There's a lot of things in the cow that are different, and for many reasons, and what you eat changes your whole body. But the proteins in the milk that people are sensitive to are there no matter what you do with the cow. And
Okay.
you can go to lactose-free milk and all that, but the point of that, if you're trying to fill out your taxes and you know what the rules are, and you're looking for a loophole, and your body isn't going to give you that loophole. So what you might do if you really need to have the cheese and you really need to have the yogurt and you really need to have the ice cream from sheep and goats. And there's such a variety of goat cheeses and even butter. And you can get the taste of butter and you can get the fat in butter with ghee, Ghee.
Yeah.
You can order it real easily. Just type in ghee from grass-fed cows and it comes to your door. And you have the taste and fat of butter without the pain that comes from what your immune system would do to the protein or from the protein.
Okay. The reason I ask is I know I'm lactose intolerant, so I'm cut out all the dairy, but I will use organic butter
Yeah.
for,
It'd be
whatever.
really interesting. If you squeeze these, are they tender?
A bit.
So why don't you maybe do an experiment, and we'll talk again in the future. Switch your
Absolutely.
butter to the grass-fed ghee
Yeah.
or to goats and things, and see
Yeah.
if 4 weeks from now they're not tender
If
anymore.
change.
And then
Yeah.
you'll know
And
everybody with
absolutely.
a headache has to be dairy-free.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Here's another
And
really interesting
yeah.
point.
Mhm.
There's people who will come up to me and say, I tried this, it didn't work. Because they might have been gluten-free or they might have been dairy-free for a short period of time. There are many people that need to face the trifecta. You're not going to feel the big difference you need to feel till all of them are out of your
Out.
diet.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing, when I started teaching my patient to go gluten free, and when I tried it myself, you cannot just avoid the flour and bread and stuff, but any other thing, you need to read the label
Oh, yeah.
because they put gluten in a lot of stuff. For example, I'm being Chinese, we use soy sauce in cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? Gluten in soy sauce.
So
Like
soy sauce is what taught me the lesson. So it was several years ago, and we were gluten-free in the house, except we didn't know about soy sauce. But, if a rep from something came in to buy me lunch, I might have a corned beef sandwich. I might go out for a slice of pizza. So I wasn't gluten-free. I was
right.
gluten careful most of the
Yep.
time. Well, then came December after 9/11, and nobody bought me lunch. Nobody came to visit. Everything was really quiet. The economy kind of tanked. You remember that.
Yep.
And I woke up 3 days in a row, the end of December, pretty much pain-free. And I
Wow.
did my sit-up kind of exercises in the morning. My first good day, I'm like, oh, wow, it's a good day today. My second good day was like, wow, 2 good days in a row. That's kind of rare. The third day,
Right.
it's like, wow, this is just as good as yesterday, and it's raining outside. This is different. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I'd been totally gluten-free for the month. And then we go out to dinner. We go to a Asian restaurant, have sushi. I wake up the next day in pain. And
Wow.
I say, Nancy, what did we eat last night? I'm in pain. She goes, well, you had a soy demi-glaze on your sushi. And I said, what does that mean? She goes, there's wheat in soy sauce. And I
Yep.
went, a few drops of soy sauce did this to me? And that is really the big eye opener to me. And then
Oh,
a
yeah.
few months later, I'm in a restaurant. My son is waiting the tables, and we have a mixed drink. And I think they made my drink out of Grey Goose vodka. And Grey Goose vodka is not gluten free. And anybody who tells
Mm.
me that the distillation process takes it out, I'm sorry. 3 hours or 2 hours after that dinner, I had so much pain in my lower back, I couldn't support my weight, and I crawled to bed.
Wow.
And I knew it was just pain. And that's true for most of you out there. Your back goes out because you picked up a piece of Kleenex and you think it's your disc.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely not. Most likely you ate something last night that did to you what that soy sauce and that Grey Goose vodka did to me. And that taught me very clearly, don't ever touch this stuff again. And how much pain does it really cause? And some of the worst, sharpest, I can't walk, I can't hold my weight, pain in your lower back is not the disc. It's a reaction that your fascia has and your gut has
To
to
the,
what you ate.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And it's, I love this. We're having this talk about totally gluten free. And the reason is that I think I mentioned it before. Lately, I've been working with some of these patients and I've been trying to do the GI cleanse for them. And the cleanse that I use is whey protein powder with just vegetables or green as much as they want to eat and take everything out. And I tell people that if you think it's too hard to do this, do it 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
If you think it's not, you can hack it, do it 7 days. And even last week, I put one lady on. She came to me first time when she came to me. She said, "I have stomach cramp. I get diarrhea. I have low energy, and I can't sleep. I keep waking up." And she said, "I don't have pain, but it's just one of those things." So because of her stomach cramp and stuff, I said, "You know what? Let's do this cleanse." I said, "You can do it 5 days. Great. If not 7 days totally." And so I talked to her on Monday. That was her 7 days. And she was smiling and I said, "How's your stomach?" She said, "Back to normal 100%. And she said, "Guess what? I got so much energy that I am actually cleaning my house top to bottom."
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, "How's your sleep?" She said, "Let me tell you, I got 8 hours every night this 7 days." She said,
Mm-hmm.
"First day I was so angry because I didn't eat enough and I needed more energy and my body's, and I'm like, your body's just cleaning out." And
Right.
so she said she felt so good and she changed like 180 degrees from previous how she was feeling. Her husband said, "What did you do?" So she
Mm-hmm.
told her husband that this is what Dennis asked me to do. So I did that 7 days and we didn't even put any supplement or anything on yet. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't even talked to her about meditation or yoga yet.
Right.
So husband said, "I'm going to do this." And he said he's going to do that 2 weeks because he want to lose about 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
There you
play
go.
with it, because you not knowing, taking all these, bad food out,
Do you
doing
ever
that
find
way.
that Do you ever find that there's people who need to be dairy-free and the whey protein powder bothers them?
I find that it depends on where, because I have a few patients that I've used the current brand of whey protein that I'm using. They may have a little bit of stomach discomfort for a day or two, and then after that they are fine with it. But if they go back to different whey protein, they are just having major stomach ache and reaction. So
Okay.
it depends, and that's what Dr. Jeffrey Bland and the group said way back when too. When I was talking to them about this, and they said, if you can get really clean whey protein, and you have to talk to the company or whoever and make sure, and then you have to test your patient and see how they go. And I'm being lactose intolerant. Some of the whey protein I cannot take it. So I'm actually creating a pea protein, fermented pea protein, peanut rice protein with chia seed, etc. in
That
it.
would be good. That would be
Yeah,
really good.
so I'm right now actually blending. On top of it, I'm actually putting wheatgrass, barley grass. So when they come out, it's gonna be fermented protein and green mix.
That's perfect. That's
So
amazing.
and that's gonna be a vegan. So for population that can't handle the whey protein. Otherwise, I like the whey protein because of the gut healing, and the whole immune modulation and stuff. So, but I just working on that. Hopefully within a month or so, a couple of months, we can finalize and come out with that. Initially, we did the 3 gram of green and 26 gram of protein. That's really like for one scoop. And I thought, okay, a little bit high protein, I want more green, so we're switching it back. So
Right.
now it's going to be 5 gram of green with 18 gram of protein is the latest mix that we're playing with it. So I'm just waiting for them to give me a mix and try myself and see how that goes. So
Now, if only you
yeah,
could put fat
absolutely.
in there too.
Yes, there's a flex in there too.
Fat.
Oh, fat.
Fat.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how you can do that.
I
That sometimes
gotta,
has to be
yeah,
eaten separately.
right. I gotta talk to the manufacturer and see what they can come up with, because if we can put something, you give me some idea, great.
People need a couple grams of fat with
Right.
what you're feeding them. And their energy needs to come from the fat. That's what we were
What
designed to eat.
what I might suggest then is for those people to put a tablespoonful of coconut oil in their
Yeah,
smoothie.
hemp hearts will work. You can put hemp
Right.
hearts in your smoothie. There's a lot of fat there.
Interesting enough, part of our protein is hemp heart.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm gonna when that finish up, I'm gonna send you a jar to let you taste it and give me some.
I will look forward to that.
Yeah,
Are you
absolutely.
putting anything in to sweeten it?
It's gonna be stevia, and we're gonna put some fruit like blueberries and stuff, and we're gonna put vanilla flavor.
Stevia is an interesting find. You know, we've always been taught, and we're always thinking that stevia is fairly benign. And I have a diabetic patient, and he keeps coming in with low blood with his blood sugars in the morning of 140,
Wow.
and he can't get it down. And the rest of his diet reportedly from him is clean. I don't have any real reason to disbelieve him. And so I'm really close questioning the place he's getting his sugar is his tea with stevia he drinks all day long. So I said, let's try an experiment if you don't mind. This coming month, you drink your tea without stevia and see what your sugars do. And they went down to 100.
That brings me up the point. I remember a few years back, I was in Orlando vacationing, and at the restaurant, I posted a package of stevia, and you commented that read the label. And when I read the label, there was erythritol in it.
Right.
And
I
so
think we
when
had the
you,
pure stevia though for this
oh,
conversation.
okay,
I think you
I'm
did.
just, yeah. So that's interesting. I
Mhm.
gotta take a look at it and play with it myself. I might even do my own
You might put out a
glucose
version that's
level.
not sweetened.
I'm sorry?
You might put out a version that's not sweetened, that the stevia is
Good
not there.
idea. Yeah, good idea. We'll definitely play with it. This is the first startup because, and this one, I'm sure you had other protein with the pea and stuff. It's really, really gritty.
I like the
And
fermented though. I really
yeah,
like that
because
idea.
this one is fermented, so it's a lot smoother and a lot
Mhm.
easier to absorb even. And the greens that we put in, all of like everything that we put in, all of them are fermented.
Now the keto people will have to turn it down from the fruit.
Right,
Too much sugar.
right. Yeah. So
So
we'll see how when the thing come out, we'll see what's the sugar content, etc., and we'll play with and adjust it as
yeah,
needed to. Yeah.
I'd like to learn
So
more about that. That sounds like a
oh,
lot of fun.
absolutely,
Great
absolutely.
project.
So this Saturday again, you're gonna be then doing it from 10 Eastern, correct?
10 Eastern until 11 Eastern. And we're going to give
Okay.
a 1 hour condensed version and help everybody understand a new lens through which to understand pain. And when you understand it differently, aren't you tired of epidural steroids? Aren't you tired of radiofrequency ablation? Aren't you tired of another prescription drug and more and more, and none of it works and you still just hurt? Everything helps a little, but nothing makes it go away. Well, we were taught as doctors that once pain is chronic, it's never gonna go away. So the person
Mm-hmm.
treating you has no belief system that you can ever get better, and his goal is to help you cope and manage with it. Well, that's not the way our biology works. Once you learn where the pain comes from and how to make the injuries heal, not so that they're perfect, just so that they're ignorable like your other injuries that you ignore. And then as
Mm-hmm.
fast as you do that, the pain goes away. And even if all you can do is change your food, half your pain might go away in the next 6 weeks.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And even if it was 20%, how much would that change your life? How much more could you do? So this is about not learning how to cope and not learning how to manage. It's a different conversation. It's how do you make it go away?
Right. And coping's great, learning coping techniques is great. But
It
again,
is.
like you said, it's not, when you reduce pain, even like 10%, it makes it so much different. And not
Mhm.
just, the pain, but it's affect the whole body function, brain, mood, all of that.
All of it, right.
It's just unbelievable that the improvement that you can see. And when I was talking about doing this gut cleanse and people are feeling better, from looking at from point of view, we also with that reduce down the amount of inflammation that they already having from food, etc.
Right.
And that in itself is making them feel better.
And
And
the
even though,
and the medicines that people take over the counter for inflammation and from their doctor for inflammation are not your friend.
no,
Prednisone is not your friend. Advil, ibuprofen is not your friend. Those drugs stop your body from restoring cartilage from your daily wear and tear. They cause you ulcer diseases. They cause kidney damage and kidney failure, and they cause heart attacks. And the only pain they take away is the pain that's there from the food you shouldn't be eating in the first place.
right, Right. When you talk about, these some of these medication causing cartilage damage and stuff, as you know, I'm being a compounding pharmacist, and we do these topical anti-inflammation pain gel. And 3 years ago or 4 years ago, actually, our group actually is creating these pain gel. The group from Houston, they actually found out and got more research done, and they even come out and said even topical pain gel like diclofenac and Voteran gel, if you use it chronically, studies are finding that it's actually deteriorating the cartilages
Yes.
at the joints.
Yeah.
And so, we started looking at it and saying, okay, we should use, lower concentration, not these 8%, 10%. And we're trying to find out using different things to do the inflammation. So I've been suggesting more of the glucosamine, which I've learned from you. You use glucosamine a lot in your practice. I think you may, correct me if I'm wrong, you may even use glucosamine as part of the injection practice. And so for me I started putting more glucosamine on these pain gel and trying to get other anti-inflammation stuff out.
The other, take out the NSAIDs and put in acetylmyrostoliate.
Right.
That might be a really good thing to put in.
That's what we've been doing.
Okay.
And that's what Houston group came up to. So that's what we've been doing. Keep telling people, physician, that start with if you need it initially, start with NSAID anti-inflammation stuff. But then when patients are better, then let's switch.
Or
so
you can use them both. You can use the glucosamine and the acetylmyrostoliate, and you can put the other stuff in the other cream and wean. Yeah.
Alternate. Yeah, we know absolutely. So. Yeah, and the other thing
you're around.
Yeah.
Because the skill of compounding pharmacy to not only make drugs and medicines that are out of print, so to speak, and no longer being produced, and there's so much old stuff that works way better than the new stuff. They just don't want to make it anymore. And have you be able to custom make a formula to the specific demands of what a person needs, that is way better medicine in many cases than what you can just buy off the shelf.
Absolutely. That's been the wonderful area of practice that I'm blessed to have, because there's a lot of time people coming in and saying, I can get this medication, I can get that medication. So we've been doing a few different medication that we've been able to access with the powder that no longer available as a manufacturer product. It's just because, from manufacturer point of view, they don't have large enough market to be profitable. But from our point of view, there's large enough population out there that need them.
Oh yeah.
That they can get anyway. And so it's always been fun. And the other thing that we've been putting in the pain gel is the magnesium. And I'm sure, you know
we use
that.
A lot of magnesium.
Yeah, you know that. And again, that's another one that I've learned from you years ago. And at some point, I've even treated patient with fibromyalgia with magnesium alone and food. And that's it, eliminate the whatever food that's triggering it, and then load up the magnesium.
Those are probably the most important things with fibromyalgia, is food and magnesium. If you had to pick two. There's a long list. If you had to pick two,
absolutely.
they'd be way up at the top.
Yeah, exactly.
And people talk about how they commit their resources, and that eating this way is more expensive, and sometimes prohibitively expensive. And so what I like to suggest is that you don't have to buy the most expensive food. What you need to not buy and not put in your body anymore is the stuff that makes you hurt. And it doesn't cost more to not eat bread. It doesn't cost more to avoid to not eat dairy. You don't have to eat goat cheese, but you can do without the cow cheese. So
Absolutely.
that's one point. Another point is that how much money are you going to save when your kids don't get sick this winter and don't miss school this winter and nobody gets the flu and has to pay a doctor bill? So on the backside of the change is a tremendous cost savings. And then the third point is, of all the things to spend your money on, nutritional supplements, soda, cigarettes, out to eat, whatever health recommendations some doctor makes, your first money should be spent on food and clean water. And bottled water is not clean. Buy a filter and filter the water that comes in your tap. It takes everything out of it, and stop drinking water coming from plastic.
Yeah.
Now you're spending money where it needs to be spent, and you can make choices. Don't just look at us and say, I can't afford that food. It doesn't cost more to not eat white bread. Don't eat any bread. Eat your chicken salad with a fork. You don't need the bread that makes you hurt, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there are ways to make this happen, and there's ways to do better than where you are, unless you are totally dependent on the food bank for your food and you have no choices at all. That's unfortunately the way for many people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to say and wrap up this call? It's been a wonderful discussion for 3 weeks in a row, and I am absolutely looking forward to continue on, once a month or, a couple of times a month conversation, and not just in the pain, but I know that you know a lot more in the whole integrative area, and I've been doing last whatever year quite a few different things, so it will be really interesting and nice conversation for both of us to share and learn from each other.
Yes. And I can help get the word out so people that are outside your purview tune into this channel and watch. I don't know how I get that link out to the rest of the world, but we can work with that too.
We can figure it out. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. So for this Saturday and for the pain, what is your last word?
It's really time to learn, where does it come from? What does your tenderness mean? What should you believe? Pain doesn't fall down from the sky. And bulging discs are supposed to bulge, and they don't cause pain. And herniated discs most likely are also not the problem. Every once in a while they are. But there was a study done, 100 men, 40 years old, never had back pain before. 30% had a herniated disc, and 30% of them had 2. So it's really hard to think that everybody's herniated disc is causing pain when they don't. So what can you believe? You can't believe the pain comes from where you feel it. You can't even believe what the pain feels like. The only thing you can believe is, where specifically are you tender? That is meaningful. I'd like to show you how to find that and what that means, and then give you some ideas of what you can start to do to make it go away and make it change, because that's what needs to happen to make the pain go away.
Absolutely. Thank you for that incredible information. And I am absolutely looking forward to that Saturday, even that 1 hour. It's a great information section that I know we're gonna learn a lot. And anybody who are interested, absolutely. So the link is same link then, or
same
to
link,
sign
the same
up?
link that you already have. You're still signed in the same way. It's going to be the same process, but instead of the video cameras coming to the studio, I'm going to do it from the camera right here on my computer, and do what I can do by myself. I will screen share. I'll show slides. You'll see some videos. I'm going to open your eyes and show you how you're put together, Some of it you might have to do this for, because I'm going to show some anatomy dissection to make my point, and I might not remember to apologize in advance. But so I'm glad we're doing it before lunch and not after lunch.
Right.
And unfortunately, we're going to talk about the food before lunch and not after lunch. But
So you may want to start avoiding food when you have lunch.
There you go. Thank
That's
you,
gonna
Dennis.
be
Thank
definitely.
you so much.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure because, like I said, back in 2006, the first time when I attended your pain seminar, or the actually 2-day seminar, my view were totally changed, and that was literally an eye-opening seminar for me for the pain, and my pain practice has never been the same. So I appreciate that.
And you know, from 2004 and 2007 till today, nothing we taught you in 2007 we've gone back on, but we've expanded the model to understand it in a deeper level, which is really nice that what you taught
Absolutely.
20 years ago
Yeah.
or 15 years ago is still real even today. And the
Yeah.
book I wrote,
Yeah.
Winner's Guide to Pain Relief, is still real even today.
I used to carry that and sell a lot of them. I remember those little ball that you know come with the book.
That rubber ball.
Rubber ball. And I remember every conference that I've seen you have one rubber ball with you for yourself to massage the back. And at one point, after I saw that, I actually carry one of them with me in my backpack everywhere I go.
And I start with it every morning. Give yourself a massage every morning. And if you're in pain, the muscles that are most important, they need to be massaged 5 to 10 times a day.
And stretch it out.
Yep. All right.
Great. Thank you. I will catch up with you to figure out the monthly talk. I'm looking forward to it.
Very much.
And I will see you on Saturday.
Very good. You have a wonderful night. Look forward to Saturday.
You too. Absolutely. Good night.
Good night.